He's the styling and profiling son of a gun. The new Peacock original documentary, Woo! Becoming Ric Flair, gives you the full story behind the WWE legend, streaming December 26th, only here on Peacock.
Pretty good woo.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Pretty good woo. Better woo than me.
A little something.
Yeah.
Have you been workshopping yours still?
I have.
Want to save it for next week?
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Next
I've been making my wife listen to it.
Yeah?
Yeah. My wife
She a tough grader?
My wife has to watch me workshop a lot of stuff.
Okay.
I'm just going to say, she's a very patient woman.
Oh, dear.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
like she
man.
just like a lot of stuff that I'm just trying to figure out how to do and what to do. And yeah, I'm just workshop. And woo is the most recent on a long list that she's
It's like the meme of the Joker up there by himself, like out there doing the comedy stand. Yeah,
Exactly.
like kind of like that.
A little
All right.
bit like that.
All right.
Like that. Gotta
Week
make her watch.
16 rankings. Let's start with the quarterbacks
Sure.
here. 1 through 10, obviously Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes at the top of the board. No surprise there. But Barry, what's the notable one to you on this list?
For me, Geno Smith comes in at QB6. I know people are concerned about him losing Tyler Lockett on the road at Kansas City. It's cold, as he heard Lord don't like cold talk about. But Chiefs have allowed the most touchdown passes in the league. Every quarterback to face the Chiefs this year, except Malik Willis and Bryce Perkins, threw 2 or more touchdown passes. Perkins and Willis, of course, don't throw. Give me Geno Smith as a top 6 play. Marquise Goodwin, DK Metcalf in a game in which they're double-digit underdogs.
Yep, Geno's going to be throwing a ton. The concern around Geno is that he's had so many drop picks recently, and he had one called back for the roughing penalty on Bosa, which shouldn't have been. But you expect that in the matchup, being double-digit dogs, it's not even going to matter. He throws 2 picks, he can still put up a lot of fantasy value.
Yeah, and it's one of the highest over-unders on the slate. We expect a lot of points to be scored.
49.
Teams that face the Chiefs average 36 pass attempts per game. That's 4th most in the NFL.
Lawrence, looking at your rankings, anybody you a little higher or lower on coming into the weekend?
Well, I actually like where Matthew has Justin Fields here at number 3. I got him at number 5. Some people were concerned about him going up against the Bills, and should I start him? But the real question you got to ask yourself is, who you gonna play over Justin Fields, man? He hasn't rushed for less than 60 yards in 2.5 months. So
in a different sport.
yeah, and look, you see that there, and that's what he's going to bring to Week 16, right? Even in this cold weather game, even in this low over-under, even though they're, 8.5-point dogs, he's going to bring you that element right there that you're looking at. So he shouldn't be no less than a top 5 finisher this week, and you shouldn't question starting him.
He's a real-life Tecmo Bowl game.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he is.
Let's take a look at the list outside the top 10 here. Rankings number 11 through 20. And Barry, I was really interested when I saw Daniel Jones right on the outside of that top 10 looking in.
Yeah, 30 or more pass attempts and 10 or more rushes in 2 of the past 3 games. The volume has sort of been there. It's a good matchup with Minnesota. No team in the NFL since Week 10 is allowing more passing yards per game. They're giving up 308 per game. Oh, by the way, you know what this game is? Indoors. The game's indoors. So, yeah, if you're looking at a streamer, I think he's a top 12 play this week. He comes in at QB 11 for me.
Yeah, Daniel Jones he's extremely underrated. He's been very solid this year. He's mastered the offense. If Daniel Jones was playing on the Jets, they'd be 10-5 right now. And I think that between the level of play he's given them, Saquon looking healthy again, and Darius Slayton's a real thing. He's a very solid wide receiver, so you'd expect that Jones will produce in a very favorable matchup.
I also like Kirk Cousins against him in that matchup. Again, I think that's a game to target. It's a sneaky over. You talked about it at the top of the show, Jay. Again, indoors, 2 decent offenses, 2 good matchups in terms of bad defenses on either side for solid quarterbacks.
Lawrence, your top storyline when we started the show was Miami and Green Bay. You see Aaron Rodgers there at 12, and you talked about how Miami needed to get that run game going. How do you think that impacts Rodgers this week?
Yeah, and I see Matthew has him at 12. I have him at 10. This is probably the highest that both of us have ranked him in a hell of a long time, But like we talked about earlier, the over-under is 50. They're only 4-point underdog, so that's interesting as well. So that means they're going to be able to come back with every shot that Miami's going to be able to give them. So just, throw out what you saw last week of Aaron Rodgers avoiding to throw the Hail Mary, which was very odd to me. He didn't want to throw that second pick. That's what it was. But the Miami Dolphins' defense can be vulnerable throughout the game. They'll make the play at the end, but Aaron Rodgers should be able to have somewhat of a bounce back.
Yeah, Xavier Howard, a little bit of a legacy Pro Bowl choice, it felt like this year from that Dolphins secondary. He has not been the same Xavier Howard we're used to seeing.
Again, Good weather game, right?
Yes,
Over
sir.
under is 50. The game's in Miami. Dolphins 3.5-point favorites in this one, so they're going to have to throw. I mean, I like I certainly like Aaron Jones here, but they're going to have to throw. They're going to have to throw, and Jones, of course, is part of the passing offense.
So we have a tweet here.
All right.
Really interesting question.
People using the hashtag FFHappyHour. Sure.
Yeah, this particular individual has Jalen Hurts, and the other available quarterbacks in the league are Aaron Rodgers, Gardner Minshew, or Derek Carr. Are there any of the three? It seems like Rodgers was the play you guys are leaning towards here, right?
Yeah, I jump at that. He's not even available anymore in a lot of leagues. So Cortland, I would definitely jump on that. And I love the way you spelled Minshew.
Yeah.
Chew.
For whatever it's worth, I actually think he has them ranked correctly. That's how I would rank them. I would say Rodgers, then Minshew, then Carr, who's on the road at Pittsburgh in what should be a very cold weather game as well.
All right, Godspeed to Cortland there, and hopefully you could still get Aaron Rodgers to start in place of Hurts. Let's look at the running back rankings here. Starting right at the top, Christian McCaffrey, maybe the biggest Pro Bowl snub. Shows you where the Pro Bowl is at right here. Barry, looking at this list, what's your biggest notable running back in the top 10?
I think it's Josh Jacobs. I mean, not everyone's going to start him, but I just think people might be concerned on the road at Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Since week 10, first off, the fact of the matter is the Steelers are sort of getting by on reputation here. They've allowed 110 rushing yards or more in 3 of the last 4 games. Running backs that have gotten at least 15 touches against the Steelers this year, averaging 19 fantasy points per game. Why do I say 15 touches? Well, listen, since week 10, Josh Jacobs is averaging 29. Literally double, 15. So I think he could have a truly epic game. He's my running back 4 in a cold weather game. It's going to be Josh Jacobs all the time, every play. He's a top 4. I have him at top 4, and honestly, he might be ranked too low.
Yep. I think, Josh McDaniels shouldn't be running the ball as much as he is, but he is, so you may as well prosper from it. Josh Jacobs he is the surest back in the league in terms of his usage.
If you listen to the Happy Hours meteorologist, Lord Don't Like Cold, he brought up how hard it would be to tackle King Henry. Lawrence, where does King Henry come in for you this week? He was RB2 on Barry's rankings.
Yeah, so I'm going to go running back 1 right here.
I might have had him too low.
Yeah, this is Texans week, baby, and he's over, the little 4-week skid he had weeks 10 through 13 where he was only RB14 at that time. The past 2 weeks, he's gotten it back under control as RB3. But this week right here, 4 straight games of 200 yards and at least 200 touchdowns versus this Texans team. This might be the worst Texans team he done faced out of them last 4 games. So give me Derrick Henry as running back 1 this week.
The only concern is, as Jay sort of mentioned, like with Malik Willis under center, at least with Tannehill, you have the threat of a deep pass. Do they just say, like, we ain't scared of Malik Willis at all? We're literally going to put 11 in the box.
Yeah.
Like they're playing Air Force.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
The hope is that, he just busts through that front 7 pretty much like he usually does. So there's not too much pressure on Malik Willis like Florio alluded to earlier.
Yep.
Let's dive into RBs 11 through 20. We talked a lot about the weather and who you really can't start in Browns Saints. And then you see them stacked right there, Barry. Chubb at 11, Kamara at 12.
Right, and even though you were hearing reports about a heavy Taysom Hill game, you're still going to use Alvin Kamara quite a bit. 23 touches last week, his most in a game since week 6. We've talked about this Cleveland run defense giving up 14 rushing touchdowns to running backs this year. That's tied for second most in the NFL. The fact that they give up the second most yards per carry to opposing running backs as well. So Kamara, to me, I know it's been bad. I know if you're in the playoffs, it's probably despite him, not because of him. But if you've made it this far and he's on your team, I'm starting him, and I'm starting him with confidence in a great matchup, a game in which they're not going to be able to pass very much.
Yep, 23 touches for Alvin Kamara last week, which might have gone a bit under the radar because he didn't get in the end zone, didn't have the huge fantasy day, but he's gotten the usage that he hadn't really been getting since the start of the year.
And by the way, if you think about 50-mile-an-hour winds, potentially up to between 35 and 50-mile-an-hour winds, well, what that affects is obviously passing, which means you're not going to be able to pass down the field, but you might be able to dump off quickly to Alvin Kamara as well. So maybe they get creative here. Maybe you see Taysom Hill and Kamara in the backfield together, Hill under center, that kind of stuff. But anyway, we love Kamara this week.
Lawrence, we know Najee Harris wasn't drafted to be RB19, but we saw what Ramondre Stevenson did to that Vegas defense. Does that inspire some hope for Najee against the Raiders?
Yeah, definitely, especially like you say, he wasn't drafted to be this, but it is what it is. His first 9 weeks, he was RB26. over the past 6, he's been RB11. Even that's not what we drafted him for. But it's like a ray of sunshine seeing him be that, because he's been getting the yards and or the touchdowns over the past 6 weeks. For the last 6 games, he's either rushed for 85 yards or scored a touchdown. They going against the Raiders, like you said. Ramondre Stevenson just ran all over them boys. James Conner did the same thing. The Chiefs did it as well. So yeah, I mean it's decent. Again, we wanted him to be top 5, but that's not where we at now. Be happy with him being an RB2.
RBs 21 through 30 for Barry coming into the week here, and Latavius Murray sitting there at RB 23. He was the star of the XFL game known as Cardinals Broncos last week that Jay could not get enough of. Barry, are you believing the Latavius Murray run continues against the Rams?
I do. Chase Edmonds activated off the IR, but my expectation here is that if he gets into this game and plays, he's going to take more of the Marlon Mack passing down running back role, and not what Latavius Murray, who's done. Even with Marlon Mack active last week, he still had a ton of work. He's now had 20 or more touches in 3 of the past 5 games. Last week, 77% of the running back carries for the Broncos. They are, in this economy, as we like to joke, somehow Latavius Murray is a workhorse back. Rams, it's a good matchup, though. Like Russell Wilson back, but the fact of the matter is they're going to be run heavy here. Rams have allowed at least 85 yards from scrimmage to a running back in 5 of the past 6. So based on volume, yeah, I mean, I think he's a volume dependent, but should get it. Low-end RB2, high-end flex Latavius Murray this week. I like him against the Rams.
Yeah, great game that. Broncos-Rams.
I mean, it's an ugly slate. It's, in ugly sweater season, it makes sense to have an ugly slate.
Yeah, the Broncos do feel destined to play these types of games, but they are 3-point favorites, so you'd expect that Latavius is going to be running against the Rams' run defense without Aaron Donald, who's not practicing. It's not super intimidating.
Yeah, that would be a Christmas miracle if this game were entertaining.
Yeah.
Lawrence, we see J.K. Dobbins coming in there at RB25. Where is he for you? Because he finally looks like the J.K. Dobbins the Ravens expected when they took him in the 2nd round, now that he's finally healthy.
This one is where we have the biggest gap, Matthew. I have him as a top 15 running back this week. Yeah, we got the what else are the Ravens going to do? They ain't throwing. Even when they try to throw, they throw it to 300-pound fullbacks out the slot. Yep. And J.K. Dobbins has been hot. You got Atlanta. It's a good matchup. Alvin Kamara was able to get back on track versus this Atlanta team. The Atlanta offense might just be giving possessions to the Baltimore Ravens. So J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards could go to work there.
Yeah, no, look, I think they go run heavy. I like Dobbins quite a bit. He's had at least 120 yards rushing in both games. The problem is he has no passing game usage. When they do pass to a running back, it's Justice Hill. So he's the lead of a 3-headed committee, but it is a 3-headed committee. And so with no passing game work, even if he's getting 120 rushing yards, like 12 points, that's fine. That's solid. But you need that touchdown. Now, I think there's a decent chance he gets it against the Falcons, who, since week 10, are allowing the 5th most rushing yards per game to running backs. They give up a lot of fantasy points to opposing running backs. But that's why I have him a little bit lower than you, Lawrence. He needs a touchdown to really pay off, to be part of that. He's touchdown dependent beyond being an RB2 because he just doesn't get any passing down work.
Nobody getting no passing down work, not even the receivers.
No, I mean, again, Devin Duvernay on the IR for them. You're starting Mark Andrews here, but, I guess if you're desperate, maybe DeMarcus Robinson. Yeah. But it does feel like the way to attack the Falcons is on the ground.
And somehow Sammy Watkins finding his way back.
And Sammy Watkins going to play.
He's going to play.
I mean, that's how desperate the Ravens are for wide receivers. Sammy Watkins waived by the Packers, signed by the Ravens, a return. He's been in the Ravens system before, and they're literally going to play him this week. They're they hand him a jersey and get onto the field.
I
Shades of Baker Mayfield.
I hear they're sniffing around Marlon Mack as well. You got Marlon Mack, Deshaun Jackson, Sammy Watkins. Get the trio together.
Right. I mean, every Ravens, right.
Le'Veon Bell each year.
Right, exactly.
2015.
Right.
Hey, look, there will be no Deshaun Jackson slander. He's a Jackson. He part of the family.
Fair enough. But I mean, they're truly desperate at wide receiver. You know what I mean? Yeah. By the way, I desperately was trying to come up with an obscure Ravens wide receiver. And
I saw your brain working.
I was literally trying to come up with
Tylan Wallace. He's
there
on
you
the
go.
roster.
That's the one.
Tylan
There you
Wallace.
go. That's a nice.
James Prochet.
I was trying to think of one from like 10 years ago.
Lee Evans?
Yeah, like I was like Lee Evans. Did
That's
Lee
a
Evans
good
play
one,
for
Lee
them?
Evans.
Yeah, he dropped
Yeah,
the
exactly.
strip.
So I'm like,
that's what he's
right,
known for
because
his
it's like,
Ravens
yeah,
career.
someone find Lee Evans and dust him off, get him out there. Like,
Kobe
it's just-
Jones.
He's good on the Bills.
Oh, Jacoby Jones, that's a nice one. There you go.
Let-
Rashad Perriman. What's Rashad Perriman?
God.
Well, you get Rashad Perriman back, right?
Finds his way back on the Bucs at some point every
I always
year.
liked Rashad
Torrey
Perriman.
Smith. Where's Torrey Smith these days?
Yeah.
It's bad. All right.
Last one on the running backs here, guys. Cam Akers comes in as RB28. Barry, is he flex viable this week, Cam Akers? It never looks pretty, but then you blink and you're like, you got 10 to 12 points.
And what you'll take from him.
Yeah.
I mean, flex viable is about the nicest thing you can say about him.
So I tried to be nice.
The positives
Christmas.
of is that he's getting work. Like he's had at least 13 touches each of the last couple of games here, and so in a game in which you're not scared about the Broncos. Like it feels like you can run somewhat on the Broncos. I mean, James Conner had a monster game against them last week. In a game which Trace McSorley was the quarterback. So I think that given that he's the lead running back of the Rams, such as that offense is, yes, he is. He's like, if you squint, flex viable. I think I'm at running back 30. You know what I mean? So he's a low-end flex. He's kind of a touchdown-dependent flex. But if you're truly desperate, if you're like, I need somebody who qualifies at running back that's going to get double-digit touches, Cam Akers qualifies at running back and will get double-digit touches.
Sounds like beer goggles, which we will
Oh,
get
my
to.
God.
I would have thought Kyron Williams would have had more involvement in that offense by now, but he's just not getting it. It's just
point.
not happening. So it seems like it's just going to be Cam Akers.
It feels like a true mess in Los Angeles as they're figuring stuff out. Like, it's this guy, it's that guy. They're just trying anything. There was a moment that Ronnie Rivers was going to be the guy. Like, it's all happening.
Team won the Super
right?
Bowl
I mean,
last year.
like Cam Akers. I mean, just Cam Akers went from he's our guy to we're going to trade him to he's a healthy scratch to we're going to trade him to we can't trade him to he's taking an extended leave of absence from the team to we released Darrell Henderson and now we all love Cam Akers and he's the guy.
Yeah, viable flex.
Sure, there you go.
What a world.
He qualifies at running back. That's what he can say. He
on the
qualifies
list.
at running back, and he's going to get 10 touches. 10 to 15 touches.
Quick note.
in a decent
Running
matchup.
back 14 over the past 3 weeks. I don't know.
All right.
I don't know.
He had the 2-touchdown game a couple
Yeah,
weeks
the
ago.
two
So that
touchdown-
inflates
Seahawks.
it, that kind of stuff. But yeah, is there a chance he falls in the end zone? Of course there is. So yes, a touchdown dependent flex.
Let's get into the wide receiver, starting right at the top here.
You sure you don't want to talk about Cam Akers?
No, I'm done. I actually regret asking the simple question of him being a viable flex. I will never bring up Cam Akers on
Thank
this
you.
show ever again.
Thank you. Then you're welcome back.
All
Okay,
right,
you can come
yes,
back.
I will get the invite.
Yep.
You brought up earlier, Barry, DK Metcalf. We know Lockett's out. Barring, put the cold away. This should be a shootout kind of game, especially against that Chiefs secondary. He comes in as wide receiver 6 for you this week ahead of players like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Keenan Allen, A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, DK Metcalf talking earlier in the week about he's not worried about the cold. He'll play shirtless.
Yes.
DK is all man.
Yeah, we believe
And
him.
it's worth noting about this matchup, as great as the Chiefs' offense is, defensively they've had their struggles. No team in the NFL has given up more touchdowns to opposing wide receivers than the Kansas City Chiefs. Why does that matter? Because no player in the NFL has more end zone targets this year than DK Metcalf. So Metcalf, who has at least 19 end zone targets this year, which is 4 more than any other player, gets a Kansas City Chiefs defense that really gives up a lot of touchdowns. It's worth noting that every wide receiver that's seen at least 7 targets against the Chiefs this year average 20 fantasy points per game. We expect DK Metcalf to get 7 targets, especially in a game with no Tyler Lockett, and they're 10-point underdogs. Yeah, all in on DK Metcalf this week.
Yep.
You with it? Yeah, simple as that, Jay?
I think so. Firstly, I don't really like DK Metcalf. He makes me feel like less of a man when I see DK Metcalf.
Scared of the guns?
When I see the guns, when I hear him talking about the cold,
Yeah.
it's like, well, I'm not built like you, and I'm terrified of the cold.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
For the record, the 3 of you make me feel like less of a man. Like, for me, it's a much lower bar to get over, just so you understand. Yeah. Jay don't like cold.
Yeah, I Jay don't like cold.
Yeah.
Lawrence, earlier in the show, we talked about the Lions' offense and how it's kind of hard to trust their backfield right now. But the guy you always fire up is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was number 7 there for Barry. Where does he come into the week for you?
I got him at 8, and the only reason I have him that
Why
low.
do you hate Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Yeah, wow.
Wow.
Wait, what? Did I say that?
Why do you hate him?
Lord don't like Amon-Ra.
Lord don't like Amon-Ra.
I'm at 7, and
Lord don't like
you're
the sun.
lower. You're lower on Amon-Ra
maybe
St.
I'll
Brown.
go 7.5.
Why are you dogging Amon-Ra St. Brown? Why do you hate him?
I'll tell you why, because something that Jay said earlier, right?
No.
Jared Goff's game against the Jets wasn't great, right? Most of it was Mitchell running 60 yards for the touchdown, right?
Now I'm forcing you to talk down Amon-Ra St. Brown. No.
No. Look, we good with Amon-Ra St. Brown. If I want to rank him higher, but it's like what the Panthers do against quarterbacks, right? Mitchell Trubisky, okay, it's Mitchell Trubisky, but he did nothing against them. Lamar Jackson didn't throw for a touchdown against them. However, Demarcus Robinson had a career day against them. Deontay Johnson had 98 yards against them. So Amon-Ra St. Brown could still do his thing. It's just like Jared Goff, give us a little something. You know, he had 76 yards against the Jets. Give us a little bit more. So that's why I have him at 8. I want to put him at top 5 because what you mentioned earlier, I got to push him closer to the top 10.
It's minus 20,000 that Jared Goff's out there shirtless in the cold like DK Metcalf. He's afraid of the cold. He's like me, Jared Goff.
He is like you, and both of you guys look for short passes to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that's the Panthers do struggle against the slot. If there's one area of the defense that they do struggle, so I think volume gets him there. Whether he gets into the end zone or not, that's the question.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much J.C. Horn he gets, and
yes.
I agree they'll put him in the slot a ton to get him away from J.C. Horn. Let's look at wide receivers 11 through 20.
J.C. Horn, by the way, somebody else drafted after Zach Wilson.
Yeah. I mean, the list is all pro, all pro. Yes, the best at all of their positions. Penei Sewell, J.C. Horn, Michael Parsons, Jamar Chase. Kyle Pitts was there.
Kyle Pitts had a great rookie year.
Yeah.
Wasn't he the first 1,000-yard rookie tight end in NFL history?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And then Arthur Smith turned him into a blocking tight end.
Listen, Zach Wilson went ahead of Davis Mills, and Davis Mills is better than Zach Wilson right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Can't argue that.
it's
Can't argue
unbelievable.
that.
Why did that show up?
I've been corrected in my ear. Mike Ditka had 1,000 yards as a rookie tight end.
Yeah,
you messed that
in
one up, man.
1961.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Wide receivers 11 through 20. Juju Smith-Schuster in that matchup we keep talking about with the Seahawks and the Chiefs. Listen, we know it's the Pacheco and McKinnon show recently, but Juju kind of old reliable a little bit right now, right?
21 targets this past 2 games. He's starting to look. He looks like the Juju finally. Took him a little while because he had that bad concussion, but he's finally looking like the Juju that we saw just before he went out with a concussion. He's looking. Him and Mahomes are really connected. As I mentioned, 21 targets over just the last 2 games, 19 receptions the last 2 games. Seattle allows the 5th most yards per reception to the slot, which is obviously where Juju lines up the most. And it's worth noting that in games in which he sees at least 5 targets, and again, he's had 21 targets the last 2 games. That's like, by the way, that's 10.5. He's averaging 10.5 targets. Did that math in my head. I don't want to brag, but literally just right there in my brain, just did that math. So he's averaging 10.5 targets a game over those last 2. When he gets at least 5 targets a game this season, he's averaging 19.4 fantasy points per game. 16.4. He's my wide receiver 13.
Yep. Unconventional, but I think
I'm
the Chiefs.
in on Juju.
Yeah. It's bad.
God bless it. It's December 23rd.
This man, he killing it
You
today.
get what you get. You get what you get.
That Christmas bonus
ruins
is going to be
Christmas.
something.
You get what you get.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs should sit Travis Kelce and Juju for this game. I just want to see what Patrick Mahomes can do against this Seattle pass defense. Just Sky Moore, MVS, that's enough. That's fine. Let's wrap up the MVP, Patrick.
Exactly. Come on, Noah Gray, career year.
Yeah,
a career
it's
game
happening.
coming for
Justin
Noah
Watson.
Gray and Justin Watson.
Yeah, let's do it.
Exactly.
On this list contained my favorite stat of the season, which is Deontay Johnson not having a touchdown on 123 targets.
I thought it was up to 153. Is it just 123?
123. We are wondering. Wow. I know we've asked on the show, does it get to 150 without a touchdown? He comes in a wide receiver 18 for Barry. Lawrence, where do you have Deontay? And I think the real question is, does he even need the touchdown to matter in fantasy right now?
He won't need it for this week because he's going against the Raiders. Just do what you did last week with Mitchell Trubisky. The only thing that's concerning is that Kenny Pickett is back. He wasn't seen, he saw 98 yards and 82 yards the past 2 games with mostly Mitchell Trubisky. Can he get that type of, he's going to get the volume, but can he get that type of yardage? So I like Barry's ranking for him here. I got him at 22, which is where I haven't ranked him that high in that long either. But because it's the Raiders, we solid with it.
So, at the end of the show, we do our bold prediction segment. And so this is not my bold prediction, but I'm going to add a bonus one. Deontay Johnson scores a touchdown this week.
Wow.
There you go.
That's going to
How
be
bold is that?
the boldest.
There you go.
I
That's
wonder
my
what his
bold
any
prediction.
time will be at.
It's actually 650 to 1 on a BetMGM. No, it's like
excuse me?
I don't know.
Right.
So
It's
what?
like plus 300 or something. Yeah, feels like it. Got a kick out of Matthew from that one. Yeah.
Yeah, he liked that
Gonna
one.
get me nothing.
All right.
On to the next.
One more here. T. Higgins in that Bengals offense that, I mean, we know pretty much every receiver matters in this offense for the Bengals. T. Higgins, as long as he doesn't have a hamstring in warm-ups that we had no idea about, should be pretty exciting to play him. That drives you so insane every time we bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, 1,000%. And look, I mean, the other thing is that the Patriots secondary is really beat up, right? And so, T. Higgins looked like T. Higgins last week in that game against Tampa Bay, the comeback against Tampa Bay. And so I know that the Patriots have been pretty good defensively. But I think Jamar Chase, this is something that I saw in Pat Kerrane's walkthrough, by the way. Pat does a great job, our friend Pat Kerrane, friend of the show, on rotoworld.com. Go check that out through his walkthrough. But no wide receiver in the NFL has seen more double teams than Jamar Chase. He has seen the most double teams, and so one would expect Belichick to do that as well. And so T. Higgins, he's seeing single coverage. He's eating off single coverage. He looks healthy. Patriots, again, banged up in the secondary. Yeah, I starting all your Bengals with confidence in this one. By the way, while we're on the air, Hayden Hurst officially ruled out for Cincinnati. So it'll be Chase, it'll be Higgins, it'll be Tyler Boyd.
I see you have him at 16 here. I have him at 14. I would want to put I've ranked him in the top 12 much of the season, just because of the upside there. Obviously when Jamar Chase was out. The only reason I have him at 14 is because the last 2 games he's had 33 and 35 receiving yards. Got a touchdown to help that out. But since Jamar Chase has come back, he been what we know he is, that dog. So that's why I have him a little far back, but it shouldn't be too concerning.
All right, wide receivers 21 through 30. And I know we're going to get into a little bit of Mike Williams East and Gabe Davis on this list. Now listen. We know we've been kind of lower on Gabe Davis recently, but he does have the Bears this week, Barry.
He does.
And
the Bears allow the 5th highest completion rate on deep passes this season. Why does that matter? Because no wide receiver that's, quote, qualified in terms of number of targets has a higher average depth of target than Gabe Davis's 15.1. They will always take deep shots. He's due. I'm saying Deontay Johnson gets in the end zone.
What you got for Gabe Davis?
He's due. I've looked at the analytics. I've done the deep dive.
Check the numbers.
It's science. He's freaking due.
Every 8th game?
Bold prediction. Deontay Johnson scores this week. Gabe Davis scores this week. I'm going to parlay that.
I'm going
to parlay that anytime touchdown. Those two on BetMGM.
With you on Deontay Johnson.
Where I use promo code Barry. I'm going to do that.
It's risk-free. You just get it back.
I'm going to bet $1,000. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bet $1,000 on Gabe Davis and Deontay Johnson anytime touchdown.
Damn.
And then I'm going to buy an island because the odds of that, when that cashes, and if for some reason it doesn't, I get my $1,000 back in free bets because it's a risk-free first bet when you use promo code Barry at BetMGM.
All right, at the bottom of that list was Drake London coming in at wide receiver 28. Guys, if I had to ask you what you thought Desmond Ritter's passing yards total was set at this week, what would you say? Well, give me a range here.
I don't know, 30?
I mean, it definitely ain't 200, so probably 175?
141.
It's 141. I knew the answer to that. Yeah. Right. I think that's the lowest. Actually, no, I take it back. I think Malik Willis is probably lower.
That's the trick, is that it was the lowest, and then now we have Malik Willis coming in.
Right.
Fields is going to be
Justin
lower.
Fields is lower, too.
It's insanity. Not good for Drake London there, who comes in at 28.
Desmond Ritter's not running for 100 yards Justin.
Not good for Falcons.
I think the positives of Drake London, and they are few, is that over the last 2 weeks that when Desmond Ridder throws, he doesn't throw a lot, but when he does throw, he throws to Drake London. He's got a 48% target share over the last 2 weeks. I mean, he's getting almost 50% of the targets, such as they are, for the Atlanta Falcons. He's had back-to-back games with 6 or more receptions. That's the first time that's happened this season. The Falcons are your team, Lawrence. Am I crazy to think he's got a top 30 game in him in a game against Baltimore in which we expect him to be trailing?
I'm a Falcons
top
guy,
30.
and this is how you should know. I'm looking at the targets, 11 targets and 12 in the past 2 games. But this over and under 35 and a half. Desmond Ridder, 141. I feel like Desmond Ridder got a better chance of running for that many yards than he do throwing them. I don't have him too far off of 28, but I do have him outside my top 30 at 34, actually. So he has only thrown to Drake London, but, man, God, I don't even know what to say. Like, you know how you said Gabe Davis is due? Whatever the opposite of that is, that's how I feel about Drake London. It's like, just throw it in the air and see what happens.
All right, fair enough. I have Drake London at wide receiver 28. There's no question there's risk involved, but you knew that when you got into the detective Drake London business.
Yes, sir.
By the way, your parlay
Yes,
of
sir.
Deontay Johnson and Gabe Davis plus 872.
There you go.
There you go.
That's
go.
it?
Yeah, I thought it would be a little higher.
I want more than that.
Yeah, I was going to say.
For anytime
Maybe it's going to happen, though.
Anytime
Yeah.
touchdown
Yeah.
for two guys that haven't scored in
You'll get a
at least
sailboat,
2
not an
months.
island.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Feels like 900.
Maybe a
to
kayak.
1, but
Yeah, 900 to 1.
A couple kayaks, a jet ski.
But right,
Risk-free.
right, it's risk
Yeah, it
free
doesn't
though.
matter.
That's the thing.
All right, one on that list that I
Just
skipped over.
872.
I want to get to Mike Evans came back to life last
hey,
week.
now.
He comes in as wide receiver 21 for you. The matchup against Arizona is great. Is Mike Evans? Are we seeing the slow return of Mike Evans, or is that outside the top 20 tell you you're skeptical of it continuing off last week?
A little nervous, by the way. Donovan Smith not going to play in this one, so could Tom Brady? Tristan Wirfs is coming back, but Donovan Smith now officially ruled out. So the offensive line gets a little healthier, and then it gets a little less healthy. Right? No one holds like Donovan Smith, so that'll be a loss. that'll be a loss for the Buccaneers offensive line because they don't
Texas
call all of
Hold'em.
them. They don't call all of them.
it is
That's
a
the
plus.
positive.
It's a plus.
You guys think I'm joking, but
That's the trick,
That's
though.
the trick, right? They're not going to call holding on every play. So.
The way he was hugging Nick Bosa a couple weeks ago, it was,
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
intimate.
By the way, they're in 3 different states. They're married now. Like that qualifies as marriage. I think in a couple of different states. Anyway,
It's good. There's
Yeah,
a lot of bad jokes. That was good.
no, thanks. I appreciate that. God bless.
Great backhanded compliment.
Anyway, look, I just think they're almost a touchdown favorite in this particular game, right? I mean, like it's 7.5. It's ticked up to 7.5. The over/under's 40.5. So they're at the Arizona Cardinals. Of course, Arizona has really struggled. They're a bottom 12 scoring defense over the last month, and so I think Tom Brady shows up on prime time. Like this is the Sunday night game right here on NBC and Peacock, and so I think it's a big Godwin game. I think it's a Mike. That's another guy who's due for a touchdown in terms of regression.
Yeah.
You know
Put him in the
what?
parlay.
Wait, what's the parlay of Mike Evans, Deontay Johnson, and Gabe Davis all scoring a touchdown?
gotta
Let's
be
make
the
it a Christmas
2000s.
miracle.
About
Let's make it a
21.
Christmas.
That's a good segment
Yeah,
for today's show.
there you
Where's
go.
our Christmas
Where's
miracle?
our Christmas miracle?
We've built it on the show. We didn't
Yeah,
plan
we
for
have.
it. We've
We
built
have.
it.
I'm going to bet that parlay just for S&Gs.
I'm going to do
as
it, too,
were.
so I don't miss out if it
I'll
hit.
trail.
Okay,
I'll
there
trail.
you
For the
go.
spirit of Christmas and the show.
Yeah, in the spirit. Don't bet more than $1,000.
Yes.
Risk-free
No.
bet. Make sure.
Do not lose a cent.
Yeah, don't, like whatever, like always bet responsibly. Bet what you can afford to lose. Anyway, bottom line is I just think he looked like Mike Evans last week, right? He's had some bad luck in terms of touchdowns called back due to penalty and everything like that as well. The Cardinals secondary has not looked super impressive. And so I also think, by the way, and I don't have a stat for this, but Brady is one of those smart quarterbacks who understands players and games, and like he knows he's hearing the chirping out there about Mike Evans. Yeah. He's going to do everything he can, I think, to force a touchdown to Mike Evans in a game in which they should win and win handily. I think he gets a cheapie. They're getting close. I think he's going to try to get a cheapie one to Mike Evans. So, yeah, I'm starting Mike Evans. The risk obviously puts him just slightly outside the top 20. I prefer Godwin to him, but I think he has a good game here.
All right, let's finish the rankings with the tight end position, starting at 1 to 2. It's been a hell of a year, guys, for the tight end position, and I mean that in the most disrespectful possible way. Travis Kelce at the top, but Mark Andrews still hanging on there, coming in at number 2 for you, Barry.
Falcons have allowed at least one touchdown to a tight end in 3 straight games. They've allowed the 4th most catches, 6th most yards to the position. He's Mark Andrews. I know he's been bad, but whatever. They're starting Sammy Watkins. Yeah, come on. Mark Andrews gets in the end zone. He's my number 2 right there.
All right, Dallas Goedert coming in at 6. We know Gardner Minshew is a big fan from their limited time together. Lawrence, where did Goddard come in for you this week?
Actually, tight end 3. Before he got hurt, he was tight end 3 on a points per game basis behind Mark Andrews and tight end 4 and behind Zach Ertz and obviously Kelce. Ertz is not here no more, so we got Gardner Minshew in, depend on all the weapons. I like him.
Let's get into the streamers range. Tight ends 11 through 20. This is, pick your poison at this point. But no fan at the top of the board here, Barry, and we know the matchup he has in Kansas City, and he's kind of had a couple good weeks here.
Yeah, you speak about the matchup of Kansas City. Chiefs bottom 6 in terms of most touchdowns allowed to tight ends. Fant, who scored in 2 of his past 3 games. There's a 23.5% target share narrow available with Tyler Lockett on the shelf. Some of that will go to Marquise Goodwin, but some of that will go to Noah Fant. They use him much more in the passing game than Will Dissly. Those guys are splitting snaps, but Fant much more athletic and the better chance to get into the end zone.
Juwan Johnson coming in at tight end 15, a guy that didn't even play tight end in college. He was a wide receiver, now finding his way into the tight end rankings. Lawrence, where does Juwan come in for you this week?
I got him at tight end 15 like Matthew does here. He scored in 4 of the last 5 games, but again, we talked about this game earlier and people who we could start, so I'm not loving it this week, but only if I really, like, I'd rather start Taysom Hill at tight end this week than Juwan Johnson.
All right, with that, we're going to take a break, but when we're back, shot-for-shot predictions coming right up.
It means we're going to drink shots on air.
We ain't throwing the pom-poms for either of these dudes, but I feel a little better about Singletary than Gabe Davis.
Lawrence,
when you say throwing the pom-poms, is that where, when you grew up,
like when T.O. did the little
I was gonna say,
thing?
isn't it shake the pom-poms?
Yeah, it meant
the
to
pom-poms is like,
yeah, I meant
what's going, like, what angry cheerleaders are at your games?
I meant to say shake the pom, because I was thinking about T.O. when he took the pom-poms.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, no pom-poms for any player, no pom-poms for neither one of these dudes.
Yeah, I got it. It's like, what cheerleaders are
throwing them out onto the field?
Cheerleaders be mad as hell at my high school. We stunk.
That was Lawrence talking about throwing the pom-poms, not shaking the pom-poms. And what we're going to do is throw back a couple shots in this round. This is me and Lawrence's welcome to Shot for Shot. I know you guys have been doing this on Sundays all year.
Doing it behind your back.
Right,
Yes.
exactly, on Fantasy Football pregame, but now a special holiday edition of Fantasy Football Happy Hour. You guys get to do Shot for Shot, again, because we're in a bar.
Yeah.
That's what I keep
the
hearing.
idea.
Little wardrobe change?
Little wardrobe change. Happy Hanukkah. I want to give, listen.
Even split.
Right, exactly. Well, I'm Jewish. I celebrate Hanukkah. My wife is Catholic. We celebrate Christmas as well. So, equal time. Exactly. Happy Hanukkah. Tonight is the 6th night of Hanukkah.
Very good.
Happy holidays to everybody. All right,
everyone.
Let's get into round 1 here, Barry. What do you got for us on your first shot?
J.K. Dobbins, 100-plus rushing yards. I like where your head was at, Lawrence, early in the show. As we talked about, at least 120 rushing yards in both games since returning. He's averaging nearly 5 yards before first contact. And since Week 10, your Falcons, Lawrence, this is your fault. Your Falcons allow the 5th most rushing yards per game to opposing running backs. Give me over 100 yards for J.K. Dobbins.
Let's get it.
Jay, what are you kicking us off with?
Okay, I'm going Chiefs. They cover -10. They blow out the Seattle Seahawks. Ryan Neal out. He's one of the best players on that Seahawks defense. Seahawks got no chance. They got no chance whatsoever against Patrick Mahomes. They struggled to contain John Wolford a couple of weeks ago. So you're going to have to do the Cardinal sin of just sipping the shot because they've got one glass.
No, what you do is you're just going to, I don't know
like
why
a refill.
We don't have the budget that you would think some shows do. We were only able to afford 1 shot glass per, even though we're each going to do 3 shots. So exactly. We spent it all on sweaters. What
Chiefs -10.
Yeah.
Done.
Lawrence, what are you kicking us off with?
All right, so I like what Jay just said there because Patrick Mahomes is going to do his thing with them covering, right? Patrick Mahomes will finish as the QB1 in fantasy, and he's the only person that'll have more fantasy points at quarterback than Tua Tagovailoa. The Dolphins' offense gets back on track.
All right, guys, I kind of gave this one away in the last segment. Desmond Ridder will go under 141.5 passing yards. This is one of those trick ones. They come out and they say this is the lowest total for passing yards ever. Everyone's like, oh, well, it's got to be over then. They don't want to throw the ball. Baltimore's going to be able to scheme against them where they're going to force him into some tough decisions. I don't think he looks ready. I think they're just trying to see what they have before they have to draft a quarterback. So Ridder under passing yards here.
Fair enough. I like that. Yeah, they're begging you to take the over there with the 141 line. They're begging you. They're begging you to. All right. DK Metcalf finishes as the #1 wide receiver in fantasy. There you go, right? You see it there on your screen, top 5. But I'll go even bolder here, right? Definitely at least top 5. But I'll say finishes as the #1 wide receiver on a slate that includes Justin Jefferson against the Giants, right? But again, as we just talked about last week, Chiefs allow the most touchdowns to wide receivers. Metcalf leads all wide receivers in end zone targets. They're going to be down. They're going to be throwing. When they're throwing, they're looking for Metcalf in the end zone. He leads all players with end zone targets, as I mentioned. 4 more than any other player. DK Metcalf, #1 wide receiver this week.
Pull it
All
up.
right, my next one, Packers, Dolphins on Christmas Day. They can't make this total high enough. It sails over 49.5. Aaron Rodgers, the Green Bay offense, it's fixed. And they're not going to be able to stop Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, so it goes over.
Lawrence.
You are damn right about that because Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Right, I got to. You the betting guy. I gotta do a little something. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, both who scored last week in that cold Buffalo, both of them gonna be top 10 wide receivers in fantasy this week. I gotta have them like that if two are gonna go off. Let's get it.
You mentioned Buffalo. I'm looking at Dawson Knox. Anytime touchdown is at plus 200. I think the Bills finally woke up and realized outside of Stephon Diggs, Dawson Knox is their most unique weapon as the #2. Even with Gabe Davis on that field, the Bears can't stop anyone. They've unlocked Dawson Knox. They want to get him confident again. He gets in the end zone again.
But only after Gabe Davis scores a touchdown, right? For me, you're right. I mean,
the Bills are scoring 40 points.
All right,
so there you go.
All right, good. All right, we can work together on this. I'll allow it.
Throw in the parlay. Christmas miracle.
Another Christmas miracle. Hey, both Jerick McKinnon and Isaiah Pacheco finishes top 15 fantasy running backs. Seahawks have allowed multiple touchdowns to running back in 3 of the past 4. You know, McKinnon's obviously been awesome with 120 yards from scrimmage in back-to-back games. Snap rate has increased each of the last 4. And Pacheco, 6 straight games with 15 touches. He gets 15 touches against Seattle. He's going to be a top 15 fantasy running back. Both guys rock in a game at home where they're double-digit favorites against the Seahawks.
Excellent. All right, my last pick, riding with a trustworthy duo that you can count on every single week, and that's Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett. They cover -3.
How
Games
drunk
bouncing
are
around.
He didn't learn his lesson with Zach Wilson.
It's because you made me triple shot instead of sip the original single shot, which was my original plan. But because I'm feeling the way I am, Broncos, they cover -3. They're playing for jobs. Rams, they're playing for the offseason. They're done. They won the Super Bowl last year. The season's a disaster. Broncos cover -3.
Wow. Anytime, listen, that would be a Christmas miracle. Anytime you can bet on Nathaniel Hackett, Russell Wilson, and that comes through.
You got a non-Dolphins
I like
pick?
that.
You got a non-Jake Crouch pick as well?
I should have one about their running backs, but I'm going to go with one of the best running backs in football, and we spoke about him earlier. King Henry will have his 5th straight 200-yard, 2-touchdown game against these Texans who they're going to be cold, they're going to be freezing, and they are not going to want to tackle that big body. They're going to have to try to grab him by the big dread he got in the back of his helmet. They ain't stopping that man.
Yeah, King Henry is a merchant of the Texans defense throughout his entire career. I respect it. I'll close this out here, guys, round 3. KJ Osborne goes.
Did Lawrence just that was your big shot? Was Derrick Henry have a good game against the Texans?
Well, this ain't bold right here. 200 yards ain't, these are
only done it 4 straight times.
These are still NFL players, Matthew. Respect these NFL defenders.
Yes. Texans?
Didn't Connor Rogers once say that he thought Devontae Adams would be a top 5 wide receiver? And
versus
not since Connor
versus an 11-man box.
I'm glad somebody outdid me.
Whatever. All right, Lawrence.
All right, well, I'm going to keep the low bar going here, Lawrence. That's why we stick together. KJ Osborne goes over.
By the way, I predict Patrick Mahomes will throw 1 touchdown this week, as long as we're.
It's probably -900 on BetMGM.
All right, what do you got?
KJ Osborne over 32.5 receiving yards.
Is that his line?
That is his line. He had 157 last week. He had 38 the week before that. The Giants secondary has dealt with not only injuries but a lot of other problems. KJ Osborne, they'll keep him involved because they will need him in the postseason.
KJ Osborne. It's his world. We're living in it.
Yeah.
KJ.
That's right. All right, let's
Your
get in.
Christmas and Hanukkah, KJ Osborne.
All right, let's move over to some deep league waiver wire ads here, guys. If you are in trouble right now, let's take a look at the running backs. Zach Moss at the top of this board against that Bears defense we talked about.
Yeah, well, we heard earlier in the show from Mike Florio just about that he should get the bulk of the work for the Colts, playing the Chargers this week, who've allowed 150 rushing yards in 6 of the last 8 games. You got Deion Jackson there as well. Tyler Algiel's pretty interesting. He actually out-touched and outgained Cordero Patterson last week in a game we know they want to go run heavy there. Chuba Hubbard over Deontay Foreman. He played 63% of the snaps last week. He's now had 3 straight games with 65 yards. Detroit is really good against the run, so it would seem like the way they move the ball with their running backs is for short passes. Hubbard is the passing down running back. And then how about Gus Edwards? In Atlanta, we talked about Dobbins, but you can obviously run on the Atlanta Falcons. He's had at least 50 rushing yards in 5 of 6 games.
Looking at the wide receivers, these guys are available in over 40% of Yahoo leagues. Lawrence, anybody that stands out on this list? We've already kind of rained on the Drake London parade, so maybe we look elsewhere.
Oh, we just spoke on him a little bit. KJ Osborne coming off a career day against the Colts last week. They get the New York Giants at home in a high-scoring game, indoors, yes, sir. Then I like Marquise Goodwin here too, man. Somebody's got to pick up the slack. I expect it to be Goodwin or a combination of Goodwin and Noah Fant there in that code that DK Metcalf is not afraid of.
And I'll just add in Jahan Dotson, not being a homer here, but look, he's had back-to-back games with 6 or more targets and a touchdown. He can flat-out ball. They are touchdown underdogs at San Francisco. The San Francisco Niners, the 49ers, by the way, right? They are the #1 run defense in the NFL over the last month, but they're 19th against the pass. If there's a way to move the ball against San Francisco, you're going to have to try to toss it there. We know they're going to be focused on McLaurin, kind of like Jahan Dotson this week as well. But I agree with Lawrence on Goodwin being pretty interesting this week.
Looking over at the quarterbacks, we talked a lot about the confidence in Gardner Minshew. You have Brock Purdy in a big game against Barry's Commanders, and then Kenny Pickett, another rookie right there, against a good matchup against the Raiders. Jay, any of these three stand out to you? I think Minshew's kind of the low-hanging fruit, but what about the 2 rookies on the board?
Well, I kind of wanted to take the low-hanging fruit, but that's all right, Connor. I can talk about Brock Purdy.
No, that's Lawrence's job. He recommends Derrick Henry against the Texans. I don't know if you saw that.
Lawrence thinks you should start Patrick Mahomes against the Seahawks.
Please do.
Of the 2 rookies, I would skew Brock Purdy just because I think Kyle Shanahan, I trust him to scheme up an easy touchdown for Brock more than I trust Matt Canada to scheme one up for Kenny Pickett. I would be a little bit concerned with Brock Purdy that he has been touchdown dependent. He's not throwing for 250 yards in these games, so ideally you can get Minshew.
All right, let's get into a segment that I have been honestly dying to join.
Sure.
We're gonna have to take a break. I've been given a curveball, so you have to wait for beer goggles when we're back.
Kevin does a great job calling the offense. I said it's unfair, I'm the blue-collar guy going against Harry Styles. They're good-looking young guys. But I really like Kevin. I think he's done a great job of not only calling the offense, but the entire team.
That was Wink Martindale calling Kevin O'Connell Harry Styles. I always like when the reporters give a real hearty laugh at a coach's joke. Like a real deep chuckle. All right, speaking of deep chuckles, let's get into some beer goggles here. Honestly, Bear, I know you love explaining the segments, but I'm going to give this one a crack.
Okay, go for it.
That's cool. So
beer goggles, yep.
This is essentially how many beers, how drunk do you need to get to start these players?
Right.
Using a scale of 1 to 5. 5 is you might not even be able to get the Uber yourself. You might have to have somebody call the Uber for you.
Exactly.
1 is a light happy hour, not even an IPA.
Just because as you're at the bar and you're searching for companionship, late as the night gets later on, you start viewing people through beer goggles.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so they start. The more you drink, the better looking they look.
Yeah, it could lead
so
to mistakes
how much
the
do you
next
need
day.
to drink
All the time.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. That's so the same thing. So how many? To get these players to look good to you on their lineup, how many beers do you need to drink?
We should do a compilation of your explanations of this topic because it would go longer than The Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
Yeah, fantastic.
Let's start with
I like explaining it.
Let's start with Giants-Vikings, a game we've been hyping up from an offensive standpoint. The over-under's at 48. Barry, you get to start with Darius Slayton. How many beers here?
You know what? I'll say 2 beers. 20% target share or higher in 5 of his past 6 games. Since Week 10, Vikings allowing the most receptions and second most yards per game to wide receiver. Look, I think he's a viable streamer. Like, again, you're investing in the Giants' passing attack, so it does, so that's why I'd want to, just a little bit of a buzz here. But I'm more pro Darius Slayton than not. Again, it's an indoor game and what should be a high-scoring affair.
Yeah, Jay, you better go pick yourself up a handle because you got Richie James for this game.
Yeah, it's 5 beers for Richie James. I know Matthew Barry's big on explaining things. I'm not explaining this one. It's Richie James. It's winning time. It's the fantasy playoffs. Yeah. You did better than Richie James.
Right.
Come on.
You know what it is? You respect our audience. I apparently don't.
Yeah.
I like explaining
That's
the bit.
correct.
Lawrence, you're over on the Vikings side of things. Feels much more promising through the air. What about Adam Thielen?
Yeah, I'm going to just need one beer right here. 13-plus points in 3 of his past 4 fantasy games. And again, we expecting this one to be a high-scoring game, so I just need that tiny little buzz right there.
All right, looking at Bills, Bears. Bills favored by 8.5. The over-under's only 40.5. Barry, you said Gabe Davis would score. You actually put him in a Christmas Miracle parlay.
Yep.
How many drinks, though, do you need to start him?
I need 2. I want 2. Same thing with Darius Slayton. Like, again, I don't want to go into the stone cold sober, but 2 beers, feeling a little good there, as well as we talked about. Like, he's going to get some deep targets. Chicago struggles against deep passes. He's due.
He's due.
He's due at science. Anyway, I want 2 beers for Gabe Davis here.
Jay, I've noticed you've gotten the hard ones here. You're getting Motor Singletary. Anytime you're asked to figure out the Bills' backfield, it might be a heavy night.
Yeah, good luck with that. 4 beers for me on Devin Singletary. They still are 8.5-point favorites. They should be running. He's not getting the receiving work as much. He had a 9-reception game against the Dolphins back in, week 2 or 3, and he just hasn't been getting that lately, so ideally you can find better.
I feel like sometimes they just throw anyway.
Yeah.
Right, and by the way, it was a 2-headed committee. Now it's become a 3-headed committee because Nyheim Hines is starting to get run as well.
Yep.
And you're like,
normally you'd be worried about wind, but doesn't matter for Josh Allen. He just throws it through the wind.
Yep. He's been under 55 yards in 2 of the past 3.
All right, Lawrence, you got tasked with the Bears side of things. Khalil Herbert's back, and we feel real good, stone cold sober about Justin Fields, but can you feel good about anything with the Bears offense, starting with Herbert?
Yeah, definitely not Herbert. I'm going to need 5 of them things and maybe a 40-ounce with it. Under 40% of the snaps in 4 of his last 6 games, coming off an injury versus the Bills, and you the backup. He's efficient, but I don't want to depend on that.
All right, heading over to Falcons-Ravens, another matchup here that is just strictly backup quarterbacks. The over-under at a low bar of 35.5. Barry, you got Gus Edwards here. How many? I feel like the drink count's going up on this one for you.
Yeah, 3 beers for me. Do I think he runs effectively against the Falcons? I'm sorry. Yeah, against the Falcons, I do, right? He's had at least 50 rushing yards in every game he's played this year but 1. So he's got a nice little floor there in terms of 50 yards. But and it's a good matchup against Atlanta, as we've talked about, 5th most rushing yards allowed per game for running backs. But again, no passing game usage, and he's behind J.K. Dobbins in the pecking order, and he's really going to need a touchdown to pay off, honestly, because you're looking otherwise at 50 to 60 yards, and you're like, okay. But 50, 60 yards with touchdown, you're like, okay. So 3 beers on Gus.
All right, Jay, you got Detective Drake London on the Falcons side of things.
Yes, 4 beers for Detective Drizzy Drake London, OVO, XO. I don't want any part of this. He might need to have 15 targets from Desmond Ridder to get 6 receptions, so ideally you can find better.
Lawrence, staying with the Atlanta offense. Any revival here for Cordarrelle Patterson, and how many beers if you're a believer in that?
I'm going to need 3, man. Since week 7, only Nick Chubb has rushed for more than 50 yards against this Raven defense, and you see Tyler Algier coming into the fold more as well, and Cordarrelle Patterson has not had that receiving work that we like, so I need at least 3.
Commanders at Niners. Niners 7-point favorites. Barry, we have to start with you on this one. You got Brian Robinson here against a tough 49ers front 7.
Yeah, Brian Robinson for me, 4 beers. 4 beers, I think, for Brian Robinson for me. Again, he doesn't get a ton of passing down work. You think about last week against the Giants where they were trailing for much of the game. Antonio Gibson outsnapped him, outplayed him. I prefer Antonio Gibson in this game against the Niners where they're touchdown underdogs. No running back has had more than 60 yards, whatever it is, against the Niners, and the only running back that is Christian McCaffrey. I don't know. I don't think they're going to be able to run effectively against the Niners. It's going to have to be a passing attack from Washington, and when they pass, that's Antonio Gibson. 4 beers. I'd want to be pretty drunk for Big Hat B-Rob.
Jay, we'll stay in that same backfield. You heard him bring up Antonio Gibson. How many drinks for him? 4
beers there too, though I do like him more than Brian Robinson. As Matthew does, I think he will get enough receiving work to be viable, but yeah, you don't want a running back going up against the 49ers, even if they do catch passes.
Lawrence, on the Niners side of things, Ayuk and Purdy, that connection really hasn't found its stride yet, even with Deebo Samuel out. How many drinks when you hear that?
I'm going to need 3 here. Like you said, he should be the wide receiver 1 on that team, but 4 total catches in the past 2 games, in games where Brock Purdy is throwing multiple touchdowns. I don't love that, so I need at least 3 beers on that one.
Our last game for Beer Goggles, guys, Raiders at Steelers. The Steelers are favored by 2.5 points. The over-under's at 38.5. Barry, another player in your parlay, Deontay Johnson.
0 beers, stone cold sober. I'm bringing Deontay Johnson home at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. 1,000%. I don't care. I see him. Look, last 4 games, whether it was Mitch, whether it was Pickett, whoever, He's got a 35% target share over the last 4 games, including 40% in 2 of the last 3. Yeah, 35% I should say, 40% in 2 of the last 3. He's had at least 1 end zone target in 6 of the last 8 games, so I think a little bit unlucky. I've said it, I'll say it, I'm on record. Deontay Johnson scores this week. He scores this week. He scores this week. I'm not lying. I would never lie to America. If you can't trust a semi-balding man in a Hanukkah sweater on a streaming network, on a fantasy football streaming, and a fake bar set on a streaming network, then who in this crazy world can you trust?
Jay, staying with that wide receiver core there. George Pickens. Kenny Pickett is back. Does that give you any more confidence than
No, it doesn't, Connor. No, it doesn't. No, 5 beers for George Pickens. Yeah, fall asleep in the gutter there. He's had 9 receptions in the past 4 games. That's not very many. That's not good. No, 5 beers for George Pickens. Go somewhere else.
All right, Lawrence, we closed it out with you for the Raiders side of things. Darren Waller's back. Looked good last week. What do you need for him?
Just 1 beer, man, because think about it. How many it's only a handful of guys you know you should be starting ahead of him. If you pick them up on the waivers, you did it for a reason. So, and it's likely because you don't have one of those handful of guys. Pittsburgh allowed the 2nd most touchdowns to tight end this season, so I don't need that much.
All right.
There you go.
All right. The NFL season is here, and the NBC Sports Predictor app is giving you a shot at winning $100,000 by entering Sunday Night 7's free contest when the Buccaneers face the Cardinals. So if you don't have the Predictor app, go download it now. Sunday Night 7, guys. Barry, we are going to start with you. Tom Brady passing yards. What range are you looking at for Brady?
I'm going to go with the 240 to 259 range there. At least 240 passing yards in 12 straight games. Arizona allows the 10th most passing yards per game. So give me the 240 to 259. They'll be up and running in this one. So that's the band I like.
Lawrence, you got Mike Evans receiving yards. Where are you looking for Evans?
For all those reasons Matthew just named, I like him even better now. 80 to 89 right here, plus the touchdown that Matthew wants.
Jay, on the Arizona side of things, it's the Trace McSorley show. How does that impact DeAndre Hopkins' receiving yards?
Yeah, not well. Fewer than 65 yards for DeAndre Hopkins. He went under this last week, and it's the Trace McSorley show. No one lives.
Yeah, I'm piggybacking off of that. Somehow I got Trace McSorley passing yards, which I think is the easiest of all, under 200, guys.
There you
Let's
go.
not reinvent the wheel.
He's no Desmond Ridder.
No Desmond Ridder over here at 141. We are going to take a break. When we're back, it's time for Prop a Shot. Looking at plenty of props in various games over the weekend. Prop a shot time, guys. Pretty simple here. We're going to look at a couple different matchups. I'm going to give you a prop. You're going to make the pick. But first, a little shooting here.
You know, men shooting fake basketballs badly. From way downtown, I hit the Vikings one.
That went out.
He hit
Lawrence, all the pressure on you.
He hit real.
Ooh, trying to bank it. All right, trying to bank it.
He didn't call glass, though. He didn't call glass.
I did. I would have called it after.
Yeah, the bank's not open.
Texans at Titans. The Titans are favored by 3.5 points. The over-under is 35.5. Lawrence, I'm going to warn you now, you are not getting any King Henry talk in this segment. Jay, let's start with you. That total of 35.5, which way are you going, over-under?
Going over. Seems a little low to me. Texans put up 24 against the Chiefs. I think that they will be able to move the ball against a bad Titans secondary. I think Derrick Henry will push this total over.
Lawrence, you got Malik Willis, over-under a touchdown pass. So essentially, can he get to a touchdown pass?
I'm going to say nah. Because King Henry going to rush for 3. King Henry going to rush for 3 of them things. So, over under 35, 21 points. So, nah.
Certainly.
Derrick Henry over under just 105.5 rushing yards.
Well, Lawrence told me he was going to 200. Yeah, exactly. I'm taking the over here, obviously. Again, no team in the NFL has allowed more rushing yards to running backs this season than the Houston Texans. He's gone over 200 yards in 4 straight against the Texans. So, yeah, give me the over on 105.5 rushing yards. I can't believe that's his line.
I thought it'd be 10 yards higher.
I did, absolutely.
I think it will be in 24 hours.
Yes.
Yeah,
well,
bet it now. Bet it now and bet it at BetMGM with the promo code Barry. Yep.
Bengals favored by 3, traveling to Foxborough, where the over-under is a little higher here, 41.5. Jay, Jamar Chase's over-under receiving set at 71.5 feels a little low.
Feels a little low. It's the scariest bet in football when we're going under on Jamar Chase. I think back to what Bill Belichick did against Justin Jefferson on Thanksgiving, where he was double-teaming Jefferson. They were bracketing him, and Jefferson had to make some freakish plays to go over. So I think that Burrow has enough alternatives that Chase will go under.
Lawrence, Joe Mixon's over-under rushing yards set at 59.5. Where are you leaning here?
Yeah, so he hasn't got this in he's been under 60 in 4 of his past 6 games. However, New England has given this up to running backs in 3 straight games, so I'm going to go over.
Barry, you got Ramondre Stevenson. This is one of your summer favorites. Over under 62.5 rushing yards here. It's a tough Bengals front.
A very tough Bengals front. And I'm actually going to take the under here on 62.5. Look, does he get into the end zone? Does he get some passing game work? Is he a viable starter this week? He is, but he's actually been under this number in 4 of the past 5 games. I think everyone's going to have last week's monster game against the Raiders in their mind when they bet this, but the Raiders ain't the Bengals, right? Cincinnati has not allowed 60 rushing yards to a running back in 3 of their past 4 games. Damian Harris starting to practice. I think Damian Harris is active here as well. So give me the under 62.5 rushing yards for Ramondre Stevenson.
All right, moving over to the Broncos, who are favored by 2.5 points at the Rams. The over-under at 36.5. My goodness, there's a lot of over-unders in the 30s this week. Jay, we'll get away from the total, though. Is there a side in this one that you're leaning with?
Oh, yes. There's no better place to spend Christmas than in the warm embrace of Nathaniel Hackett. Broncos cover 2.5. They blow out the Rams.
My goodness. Lawrence, with hearing that, you got Jerry Jeudy over under 63.5 receiving yards. Where are you going with that one?
Yeah, I'm going to hit this over. He's had at least 65 in 3 straight games. We still don't know the status of Cortland Sutton, which will even, heighten the expectations for that even more, so give me that over.
Barry will close this game out with Latavius Murray's rushing total set at 65.5. Seems crazy, but to me, it sounds like a no-brainer over for Murray.
Yeah, 17 carries in 3 of the past 5 games. Rams have allowed at least 69 rushing yards to a running back in 3 of their past 4 at 65.5 rushing yards. I'm taking the over on Latavius Murray. I'm on the Nathaniel Hackett train with you, Jay.
Yes.
Good Lord.
Let's go.
That train have a
train to hell.
Thelma and Louise, final scene.
That's exactly
right off the cliff into nowhere. Last game here, guys. Bucs at Cardinals. The Bucs, no surprise, favored by 7.5 points against Trace McSorley's Cardinals. Over-under at 40.5. Jay, James Conner over-under 17.5 rushing attempts.
Yeah, I'm going to go under, and it's a little bit scary because Trace McSorley's probably not going to have a lot to do, but they are 7.5-point dogs, and he has gone under 2 weeks in a row.
Lawrence, we're looking at playoff Lenny, maybe playoff Lenny. Leonard Fournette over-under 19.5 receiving yards in this game.
Yeah, so I'm going to hit the over. He's had at least 30 receiving yards in 3 straight games, 18 targets in that span. That's where he's getting his bread and butter right now. And they're playing the Cardinals. Give me the over easy.
Barry, this last one, we're looking at the struggling Arizona defense against Tom Brady, whose over-under touchdown passes is set at 1.5.
Yeah, give me the over 1.5 passing touchdowns for Tom Brady. He's had multiple touchdown passes now in 4 of the past 5 games. We know Mike Evans is getting one. I've already promised that as well. And only one team in the NFL has given up more touchdown passes than the Arizona Cardinals with Trace McSorley. I think the Tampa Bay offense is on the field quite a bit. It's a primetime game. Tom's going to want to show off. Easy over 1.5 passing touchdowns for TB12.
Like it.
If you like what you hear, we got good news for you. The action never stops with our friends at BetMGM. Sign up now using bonus code BARRY, and your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. Simply download the BetMGM app today or go to BetMGM.com and enter bonus code BARRY to make your first wager risk-free up to $1,000.
That is not a picture of me, just so you know. I want to be clear about that.
It's not me either. Just in case y'all get it ain't me either.
That is Jamie Foxx.
My God.
That is Jamie Foxx.
When we're back, it's last call. We're giving you our big, bold predictions for the weekend. It is time for last call, and it is our big, bold predictions. What we will be talking about to kick off Monday morning. Jay, start us off. What do you got?
Right now, Saquon Barkley is 20-1 to win Comeback Player of the Year on BetMGM, plus 2,000. He was like minus 400 6 weeks ago. I think by Monday morning, he'll be the favorite for this award again. He has 100 yards, touchdown, beats the Vikings. Geno Smith loses, gets blown out by Kansas City, and Saquon Barkley is the favorite for Comeback Player of the Year.
Lawrence, I know they're going to get their jokes off as soon as you start, but what's your big, bold prediction here?
Well, I'm going to trail you again, first off, right? Dalvin Cook has 1 game against the Giants in his career. He had 218 yards from scrimmage. Barkley has none against the Vikings. Both Saquon Barkley and Dalvin Cook will go for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns each. Is that good enough for you, Mr. Barry?
Yeah, it's better. It's better than Derrick Henry will have a good game.
Start Derrick Henry.
But this is the bold one, so I had to come a little, you know.
It's not bad. Not bad.
All right, I'm
Not
sticking
bad.
with the Gardner Minshew hype here. The Eagles will knock off the Cowboys in Dallas. They're 4-point underdogs. That money line's plus 185, so there's absolutely some value there. Barry, what do you got?
All right, listen. My prediction is not bold. My prediction is that the Commanders cover the 7 against the San Francisco 49ers, right?
It's the holiday.
Not counting last week. The Commanders haven't lost by more than 7 points since week 6, okay? And so last week they lost by 8 to the Giants. Should have obviously been 2 at worst, right? I mean, with the refs and the whole thing. Not going to get into that. But the fact is I think they cover again. Look at San Francisco's been in a roll, but whatever. They beat a crappy Seattle team on a short week. They beat a struggling Tampa Bay team. They blew out, Miami, which got blown out. I mean, just anyway.
Yeah, not
San
no
Francisco.
good.
So anyway, the Niners are good. The Niners are good, but I don't think they're this good. I don't think my prediction is the Commanders cover the 7. My bold prediction is that they win. They win. Listen, no one expected them to beat the undefeated Eagles either, right? And they did on the road. It would make no sense at all for them after losing the Giants to go cross country on a short week and beat the San Francisco 40s. It would make no sense at all, which is why it'll happen.
All right,
It'll
so
be a Christmas
parlay the
miracle.
Commanders' money line into Deontay Johnson anytime touchdown scorer.
There you
Gabe
go.
Davis
It is
touchdown.
closing
Mike
time.
Evans.
It is closing time, which means you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Because of the Christmas holiday, there is no fantasy football pregame on Sunday morning. You're going to have to figure it out yourself. But follow us on Twitter. For Lawrence Jackson, Jay Croucher, Connor Rogers, I'm Matthew Berry. Have a very Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. Peace out and peace on earth.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.